I checked the security feed, and there she was, my mother, Shirley Anderson. Impeccably dressed, as always, in one of her tailored designer suits. Her pearls gleamed under the lobby lights, and her hair was coiffed to perfection, not a single strand out of place. But what caught me off guard wasn't her polished appearance, it was the urgency in her eyes. She was speaking animatedly with a security guard, her lips moving quickly, her hand gestures sharp and impatient. "Let her up," I sighed, leaning back in my chair. If I was going to deal with anyone today, it might as well be her. The elevator chimed softly, opening directly into my penthouse. The moment she stepped out, she froze. Her eyes widened as if she had stepped onto another planet. I watched her gaze sweep across the sprawling open space, lingering on the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, the hand-woven Persian rugs, and finally stopping on the Basquiat hanging proudly on the wall, a single piece of art that probably cost more than her entire house. "Janet," she whispered, her voice trembling. "What is all this?" I folded my arms, studying her. "This is my home, Mom. The real one. Not the small apartment I keep for when I visit the family." She took hesitant steps forward, her heels clicking against the polished marble floor. Each sound echoed in the stillness, almost accusatory. She pressed a manicured hand against the windowpane, staring out at the skyline. "How did you manage this?" 17 years, I replied evenly, pouring her a cup of coffee as though we were having an ordinary morning chat. "Ever since Dad told me my digital art would never amount to anything." Her head snapped toward me, her brows knitting together. "But you struggled, we saw you struggle." I felt a hollow laugh bubble in my chest. She was clinging to the story they had always believed, the one where I was a failure barely scraping by. "You saw what I let you see," I said quietly. "It wasn't struggle, it was strategy. I had to build on my own terms, without being crushed under your expectations. Without being dismissed before I even began." Her mouth opened as though to argue, but the words never came. She sank into one of my French leather chairs, suddenly small in the vast room. "We saw it," she murmured. "The cramped apartment. The old car. You borrowing money for rent." "I never borrowed money," I corrected gently but firmly. "I asked you and Dad to invest in my company." "That's very different." "And everything else, the apartment, the car, that was part of the image I let you believe." Her voice rose, laced with raw emotion. "So, you've been lying to us. For 17 years? I met her gaze, unflinching. "No, Mom. I let you see what you already wanted to believe. You were so convinced I was failing that none of you bothered to look closer. Did you or Dad ever once come to one of my shows? Check out my work? Even Google my name?" She lowered her eyes, unable to answer. "That's what I thought," I said, bitterness creeping into my tone. I walked over to my desk and pulled out a thick file. Setting it on the table in front of her, I said, "Here. 4 years ago, I asked Dad for an investment, $1 million. If he'd believed in me then, his share would now be worth $280 million. Her hand trembled as she flipped through the pages, her face paling as she absorbed the numbers. "He said you were just looking for a handout," she whispered, her voice breaking. "That your art wasn't working. And I believed him." I felt a pang, anger, sadness, vindication, all at once. "You believed him, because that was easier than believing in me." Silence stretched between us, broken only by the faint hum of the city outside. At last, I spoke again. "The annual family reunion is in 5 days. This year, I've made some changes. Instead of the usual venue, everyone will be picked up by my drivers and taken to my jet. We'll be having the reunion on my island." Her head jerked up. "Your island? In the Caribbean?" I smiled faintly. "Yes. I bought it last year after I closed my first billion-dollar deal." She stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. "When your father sees this, he'll have no choice but to admit that the daughter he thought was wasting her life built something bigger than his entire legacy. And that's just the beginning," I replied. I walked her back to the elevator. Just before she stepped inside, I added casually, Oh, and Mom? That Bentley you've always wanted but Dad says is too expensive? I bought 4 last month. Just because I could. The doors slid shut on her stunned face. I exhaled and pulled out my phone. Rebecca, I said when my assistant answered, is everything ready for the reunion? Yes, Miss Anderson. The island staff is prepared, and the documentation packages are assembled for each family member, outlining when they dismissed your opportunities and how much those shares would be worth today. The video timeline of your success is also finalized. Perfect. I opened the family group chat and typed a simple message. Looking forward to seeing everyone at the reunion. Dress appropriately for a private island. Transportation will be provided. Almost immediately, the chat lit up with confused emojis and questions, but I ignored them. Instead, I opened my laptop and refreshed the market updates. The Forbes article was everywhere, and my company's stock had just surged again. Another billion added to my net worth, before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. I leaned back in my chair, picturing my father in his office, still trying to convince himself that it was a mistake. That it had to be some other Janet Anderson. But no, this time there was no hiding, no denying. This time, the truth would be laid bare, for all of them. And when the reunion came, they'd finally see who I had become. I replied to my father that whatever he wanted to discuss could wait until the reunion itself. After all, wasn't that the perfect occasion to share our triumphs and truths? In the meantime, I left nothing to chance. Every detail mattered, every symbol had to send a message. I instructed Rebecca, my assistant, to confirm that the island's helipad was freshly repainted, my name emblazoned in bold lettering that would be visible from the sky as the family landed. I had the staff install framed copies of my recent Forbes cover story across every suite, hallway, and lounge of the resort. My face and my success would be unavoidable, present in every corner, every glance. I wanted them to feel the weight of the legacy I had built, the empire they had ignored. The day of the reunion dawned bright and golden, the air crisp with possibility. Standing on the tarmac of my private airfield, I watched as 3 Rolls-Royces glided into formation, their polished chrome catching the sunlight. One by one, my family emerged, my father, his commanding presence dimmed, though he still carried the pride of a patriarch, my mother, still unsettled from our last encounter, her usual poise fraying at the edges, and Amy, clutching her designer handbag like it was armor. Other relatives followed, their expressions a mixture of awe, confusion, and simmering resentment. "Welcome, everyone," I called, my voice carrying across the tarmac with practiced authority. "I trust the ride was comfortable." My father cleared his throat, his voice edged with authority. "Janet, surely a family gathering could have been hosted in a more traditional venue." I smiled, unshaken. "On the contrary, Dad. Privacy. Exclusivity. And the freedom to speak without restraint, my island is the only place that offers that. Don't you think?" He said nothing, but the silence was answer enough. As we boarded my private jet, its sleek body painted with my company's insignia in elegant script, the atmosphere shifted. The cabin, outfitted with rare artworks, custom gold fixtures, and hand-stitched Italian leather, was a floating gallery of refinement. Vintage champagne flowed as white-gloved attendants moved gracefully among my family. "That's a Picasso," I remarked casually when I caught Aunt Jessica staring at the painting opposite her seat. Her jaw dropped. "A real one?" I sipped my champagne, smiling faintly. "Of course." My father tried steering the conversation toward business, numbers, markets, practicality. I stopped him with a small gesture. "All in good time. For now, enjoy the flight. This bottle of champagne," I added lightly, "is worth more than your company's last quarterly profits." He flinched, though he tried to hide it. 3 hours later, as the jet descended, Anderson Island came into view, 500 acres of unspoiled paradise framed by turquoise waters, with a modern resort complex gleaming at its center. My name was carved in massive letters into the cliffside, visible even from the air. Amy gasped audibly as the helicopter escort carried us over an outdoor exhibit of my NFT collections, each display flanked by digital boards listing their multimillion-dollar sales figures. "Welcome to Anderson Island," I announced as we stepped onto the marble landing pad. My own little piece of paradise. Stephen, normally the cool-headed one, couldn't mask his astonishment. You own all of this? Yes, I replied simply. And it's only the beginning. Each family member was guided to their suites, where hand-picked reading materials awaited them, magazine features, industry articles, and profiles that detailed my journey from underestimated, failing artist, to industry pioneer. That evening, the grand dining hall came alive. Screens flickered to life, revealing the blueprint of my newest project, a platform designed to revolutionize the digital art marketplace. This venture, I explained with composure, launches next month. Conservative projections value it at $14 billion. I wanted you all to hear it directly from me, not through dismissals, not through rumors. But from the source. The silence that followed was thick. For the first time in years, they were listening. Truly listening. It was my mother who finally broke the quiet. Her voice trembled. We're proud of you, Janet. We should have seen your talent, your dedication, long ago. I met her eyes, softened by regret. Thank you, Mom. But I didn't build this empire for recognition. I built it because it was my dream, my vision. And now, I gestured around us, it's my reality. Stephen leaned forward, pragmatic as ever. So, what happens now? Now, I said with a calm smile, we enjoy dinner as a family. No pretenses. No secrets. Tomorrow, I'll give you a tour of the island. You'll see what I've created, while you were looking the other way. Crystal glasses were raised in a toast, their clinks resonating like a quiet truce. The evening unfolded into a symphony of gourmet courses, rare wines, and conversations that grew warmer with each hour. For the first time in 17 years, I felt seen, not just as the prodigal daughter, but as the woman I had become. Later, long after my family had retired to their suites, I lingered in the moonlit dining hall. The ocean shimmered silver beyond the glass walls. Rebecca entered quietly, her voice gentle. Was it worth it? All of this, the reveal? I thought of their stunned faces, their reluctant admiration, my father's unspoken pride. I let the silence stretch before answering. Yes. But not for the reasons I once thought. It's not about proving them wrong anymore. It's about the freedom to finally live as myself. She smiled knowingly. Back in my suite, I discovered a handwritten note slipped beneath my door. It was from my father. His usually bold penmanship wavered, betraying emotion. You didn't just succeed. You transformed an industry. I was wrong. I underestimated you, in business and in life. I'm sorry. I read it twice before carefully placing it beside my first NFT sale receipt, a reminder of how far I'd come, from $100,000 to billions, from rejection to respect. The next morning, I joined my family at breakfast. Their demeanor had shifted, less skepticism, more attentiveness. For once, they weren't dismissing me. They were ready to listen. My phone buzzed with a news alert. The official launch of Anderson Digital Empire was trending worldwide. As I looked up from the screen, I realized something profound. This time, my family wasn't just present. They were witnessing history. No more hiding. No more pretending. The future had arrived. And they were finally watching.